Welcome back, everyone. In this video we are going to take a look at the attributes associated with a pre-batch component. So here we have a number of attributes that are available when you are working with an individual component or a pre-batch component within a pre-batch definition. The first three I'm going to talk about kind of as a group: name, component type, and source. Now the name, as it sounds, is just the name that is given to the pre-batch component. If component type and source are not specified, those attributes will take on the same value that has been given to name. Now component type is the name that will get passed into the batch definition during that part of the process, but we're not going to get into the details of exactly how that works just yet. Now source is the name of where we are sourcing this content from. The next two options use the range syntax that we spoke about earlier in one of the videos. And the first one, split range, basically specifies what page of the inbound order content are we going to use for this pre-batch component. And we'll see how that works here in the next video. Pad range works in the same way, but that attribute is used to basically pad a particular page or range of pages with an extra blank page, if the need ever arises to do that. We then have the option to specify a pre-batch imposition, which lets us take the pre-batch content we're building and impose that or run it through an imposition some number up, if there is a need for that as well. Now the next attribute, max copies, allows you to restrict the number of a specific pre-batch component that's going to be generated. Now remember that quantity, when that comes in with the order, that is applied to the entire pre-batch definition, or all components within that pre-batch definition. So if there is a need to restrict the number of pre-batch components generated for a specific one, you can do that using max copies. Duplex is just that. It allows you to state whether or not the pre-batch component is single or double-sided. And then layout is the attribute used to specify which layout that pre-batch component is going to use. We have an attribute for blank, which allows you to create a blank pre-batch component that essentially will be sourced from the same content, but then allows you to place whatever content you would like via layouts on that. And the blank component's a little bit different, but there are definitely some great uses that can come up for using that option. The auto size width override and auto size height override we're actually using right now. Probably the biggest reason why you would need to use auto size width and height overrides to specify an exact width and height of your content is when your order content is not PDF. So if you have like JPEG based content which doesn't necessarily have a width and height that we're going to instantly read like we can with a PDF file, you'll need to specify those dimensions so that we know how to size that content as it's brought into the system. Fit policy basically describes how are we going to handle the content if resizing occurs. Now, I didn't mention it previously, but even when you're using PDF content or with JPEG content, the auto size width and height overrides if the content is resized. It must have one of the available fit policies applied to it. And the fit policy basically states how are we going to resize this content and what steps are we going to take in order to maintain the aspect ratio. So different options for fit policy are things like, are we going to scale it and center the content? Are we going to scale it and crop off part of the content? Are we going to center it and crop it? Or are we going to just crop it? So there's different things that will happen, and we'll have a whole video that we're going to dedicate to fit policy. So we're not going to get into the specifics of that now, but I just want you to know that within a pre-batch component is where you would define that fit policy in the event those things need to occur. And then lastly, we have this option for auto rotate, which basically says if what we've defined within the pre-batch definition for our width and height when using auto size width and height override, if that doesn't match the order content, the aspect ratio doesn't match the order content as we pull it in, then we're going to auto-rotate the content so that at least the aspect ratios match. And when that auto-rotate occurs, we're also going to apply some fit policy. So typically when auto-rotate is defined within a template, you're also going to have fit policy defined as well, so you can specify exactly how that content is going to be scaled and or cropped as needed. So those are the attributes. One thing that you will notice here is that 3 of them are highlighted in yellow, and I did that because these 3, like I said, I touched on them a little bit. I'll show you where they're at within the pre-batch definitions, but we're not going to get into the details of these right now because these are kind of whole topics on their own. So we'll talk a lot about layouts, we will talk a lot about fit policy, and we will get into building some pre-batch impositions, but probably not in this next video or two. So coming up next, we are going to take these attributes and use most of them so we can get a little bit of practice and see how they are applied within a pre-batch definition. So that's all we have for this video, and I will see you in the next one.